Hey everybody, this is the BS Podcast Network. I'm Ben Dorst.
Steven Dominguez.
At least this show is better than pure BS.
What?
What
are you? I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is
Bond.
I'm
Batman.
name's Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman.
Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. This is the Batman versus James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is a show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It's great to be back. Oh, yes, it is. I hope all of you have had a fantastic week. Mine was great. A nice little R&R extended weekend up in New York, and feeling like a little kid again. And I'm staring right now at my Batman Legos. That's right. I am a 30-something adult, and I still have Legos that I just built. And yeah, I'm not afraid to admit it. It is a Batman v Superman Lego set, and I will just say that this Batman v Superman, that's gonna be even a bigger fight than what we saw in there. I mean, it was a cool fight in the movie if you haven't seen already, but still. And yeah, got like a whole bunch of new little Batman gadgets. My wife was nice enough to get me a new Pop Funko. I don't know if any of you guys collect those. I have one at work. It's and of course, hence his name is Little Batman, and it's the Christian Bale Dark Knight Batman suit. But she was actually giving me an early Christmas present because she couldn't hide that well enough from me, and it came up on one of the notifications on my cell phone last week. I'm like, something Batman related. What could it be? Well, it ended up being one of those little Pop Funko Batmans, and it's actually the Batman from Batman Arkham Knight. And let me just say that these little things are so cool, and I can see why people are starting to collect them. I'm like on my second, third one right about now. And yeah, so I'm going to add that to my nice little collection and stuff. So yeah, but that's not why you're here. You're not here to listen to that. You're here because we want to talk some James Bond and Batman news. Boy, do we ever have a lot to talk about tonight. Before we get things started, just a reminder that the Batman vs. James Bond show can be found on the BS Podcast Network. That's bspodcastnetwork.com. You can find my show and a whole bunch of other great shows on there. I know specifically Pure BS Podcast, those guys, Steven and Ben on there, they like to talk about Batman. They even talked a little bit about James Bond last week. I was in shock when they talked about it. It's like, wait a minute, guys, you're stealing material. No, I'm just kidding. They actually talk about, they touch on it a little bit, but here in this show, we go a little bit more in depth. But right now, let's get down to business. I didn't have a chance to tease this because it was kind of a secret. I was kind of doing a covert op here, kind of like in the style of James Bond or Batman. I had a little covert op mission in a way, just trying to, I wanted to tease this, but at the same time, I was just like, I got a nice little treat for you guys, something a little different, something we haven't really talked about on the show on here before. To a point. This week, I have a very big treat for all of you Bond fans and Batman fans too, but more specifically, James Bond fans. Now, I'd like to welcome a very special guest and a person I had to persuade to come on the show. I'd like to welcome John from Iconic Alternatives. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, it's just little old me by myself here. Yeah, it's all good. John, let me tell you this. I have to say I'm obsessed with your website. I'm not just trying to blow smoke or anything like that. I literally, since I found you on social media, I think I check this website every single day. And let's put it this way. Anytime I'm about to put clothes on or go to work or like a date with my wife or to run errands, I'm checking out your site. No lie.
That's great. No, I'm glad. I'm really glad it's helping people. I mean, I really, really am.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Let me ask you this. How did this all come together? I mean, at your site.
Well, it's kind of it is kind of one of those funny, weird stories that happens. I was, I've been a Bond fan for a very, very, very long time, mm-hmm. and I'd been on the Bond fan forum, AGB 007,
right,
for a long time, since I think about 2005 or 2006. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so last year I got sick and I got stuck in bed, and I was just going bored out of my mind. And so what I decided to do was I was going to go through all the old forum threads and find alternatives that everyone suggests for the different types of clothing, the different shoes, the different, jackets, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was just going to kind of consolidate it all into one website. Nice. And so I started off with this really basic WordPress template and just kind of uploaded everything. Mm-hmm. And then, launched a thread on the forum and said, hey guys, I did this because I'm sick and I'm bored out of my mind. And the hits went through the roof. I mean, I think we had on our first day, I think we had like 750 or 800 hits.
Wow.
And then it just started gaining traction. I mean, it really started taking off. So around, I think it was around the end of January of this year, I was looking at the numbers and looking at the way it was growing and thought, this is maybe something we should take a little bit more seriously and something that could help. Mm-hmm. And, I enjoy technology and I love to write. So I decided to make it a little bit more formal and it's kind of just kept growing from there.
Nice. And now
so you can thank the flu.
To thank the flu. Okay. Well, we can thank that. Well, how about we thank the forum and how about we thank James Bond in general? How about that too? And you, of course.
I'm going to say this right off the start. I mean, yes. the guys over at that forum are absolutely amazing. It's such an amazing community and such a great group of people. And I think you got you just recently joined there, right?
Yes, you introduced me to it. I started checking it out. I'm like, it's what's great about forums in general is that if you're a fan of something that it's nice to have a place that you can go to talk about, especially now that we have the interwebs and stuff like that. But this specific site, I mean, I'm finding all kinds of things on there that I never would have dreamed of. So, I really like it, especially as a Bond fan, because I mean, yeah, sure. Of course, I'm a Batman fan at the same time too, but it's easier to find Batman things out there. I mean, especially if you want to get particulars. I mean, just like, oh well, which Batman and so forth. But James Bond, I feel like there's a smaller group out there, and it's not as easy to find fans to talk to. But if you do, then there are some real diehard James Bond fans. I mean, definitely more than myself out there. I used to think, oh, I'm a James Bond fan. I'm like, maybe not as much as I thought sometimes because there's so much out there, So
that's a fun of that site. I mean, of that forum is it just keeps you humble because you're learning something new every day when you go there and visit.
Yes, and even with doing this podcast now, I've been doing it since just February, give or take, of this year. And I'm learning stuff as I go. I'm like, wow, I never knew that. That's really interesting. And I'm picking up on a lot of stuff. And, like I said, you interact with all different people, which is really nice. And especially, people that are a fan of something such as this. So, it's always great. So I want to wish your site and you also a happy 1-year anniversary. Big congratulations on that. So when was the 1-year anniversary? Is it now this week?
No. The 1-year anniversary is coming up on December 1st. That's when I created the thread on the forum and decided to kind of tell everybody, hey, look, I'm doing this.
Cool. Very cool. It's a great website. It is iconical.alternatives.com. We'll definitely be plugging that a lot. So definitely, for listeners out there, definitely check that out. So before we get to talking, just want to get a little bit of background about you. And I usually don't warn anybody about this, but you wanted like to be prepared for this. I'm like, don't worry, I'll do all the work. It's okay. It's a very informal discussion, but I'm still going to a few questions just to get things started, okay? So, and you didn't have to study for this, even though you might have. I don't know. Number one, what is your favorite Batman film? If you are a Batman fan, I assume if you're a James Bond fan that you could be a Batman fan.
I am definitely a Batman fan.
Okay.
And probably I think the best interpretation is Batman Begins.
Oh, good choice.
Okay. Yeah, I think it just kind of, I know a lot of people will kind of go with The Dark Knight, but I think that's more of a Joker, Heath Ledger kind of movie than it is an actual Batman movie. And I thought Batman Begins was just a great way of reintroducing the franchise, of kind of grounding it, of keeping a lot of the excitement and the mystique behind Batman without getting carried away, without getting too cartoonish or silly. Yeah,
it was really, after we had Batman and Robin, if you want to count that. I always compare it to the Star Wars prequels.
I like George Clooney a lot.
Me too.
I really find him amusing. I feel so bad for that guy about that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and he even admits on interviews, I can't believe I did that. It's just like, oh well, it was a paycheck, so it is what it is.
That's one of the reasons I like him.
Yeah, he's honest about that, and he even did kind of his own James Bond thing. It's called The American. It's actually a really good film.
That's a great film. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, it was just something I randomly found, and I'm like, hey, that's actually something I have to do a comparison of one of these days. But besides the point, though, Batman Begins is it's like the template now for so many movies, and it's just that formula that Nolan created. And Christian Bale, watching, even his work from American Psycho, you still see a little bit of that in Bruce Wayne, especially. And I like that. I like that a lot. And
you like the fact that he's got this kind of crazy edge to him that's just kind of buried beneath the surface?
I do. I really do. Let's face it. Watching their parents get murdered in front of them and then just going away and then becoming a member of the League of Shadows, and it's just like, wow, what does that do to a person? And he showed that. He's an incredible actor to begin with, but watching him do that, people give him hell about the Batman voice. Honestly, I think with that, the Batman Begins voice, that was fine. Even where he's like, where were the drugs going? It's like, I don't mind that. This is realistic Batman here, folks. Maybe they weren't thinking of the one that Ben Affleck has, that little voice synthesizer or whatever you want to call it. But no, I think everything about that is perfect. I really can't think of anything I really would change. I just wanted more of that. So, like you said, go ahead.
Sorry, this is always one of those indications, right? It's like when Batman Begins comes on TV, when it comes on cable,
mm-hmm.
I'll sit and I'll just watch it from start till finish.
Oh, I don't blame you.
And when it's with The Dark Knight, I just tend to stand up more and kind of like go grab popcorn or grab whatever. It's like until Heath Ledger's on the screen, and then you're like, okay, I'm glued.
Right. It's like a 2.5 hour movie, but Heath Ledger stole the show with that, and it is more of a Joker movie. And even Bale was saying that, it's just when Heath Ledger came on to the scene, just it was totally different because of what he wanted his Batman to go even darker, but he really couldn't because Heath Ledger kind of, that was the role that he had in there. So, but all in all, I think Bale was one of the better Batmans, always back and forth between him and Keaton, but, Batman Begins is a solid Batman movie. So, all right, now we've talked a little bit about Batman. I'll come back to that in a moment, but what is your favorite James Bond film? Favorite James Bond film?
This is one of those questions that, listening to your podcast, I know that your guests always get asked, and
yeah.
The thing is that this is one of the reasons why I really, really do love James Bond, is that I think there's such a portfolio, such a different selection of films that you can choose from, mm-hmm. with such different tones and such different, styles. It really depends on my mood. Okay. It really does. I think of the ones I keep coming back to, and it's, Dr. No, Goldfinger. Unfortunately, Roger Moore is not one of my favorites, but For Your Eyes Only.
Good job.
Yeah, and then then I kind of jump forward and then I go to The Living Daylights, for example. I love that movie. I absolutely love it. Goldeneye, Casino Royale. It seemed like after Moore, it seemed like it was only the first film of the following Bonds that I really, really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. But that's why I love about the Bond franchise, is that you can just choose. Depends on the mood you're in. You can kind of like choose from this library and just say, you know what, I'm kind of a goofy mood. Okay, Roger Moore.
Yes,
right? And,
if you're in
this
like
kind
a
of
comedy.
60s,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm this kind of 60s, retro vibe thing going on right now. Okay, you just pull out the Connery, and that's what I love about the series so much, is that you can always choose a movie that suits your mood.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yeah, there's and the thing is, every Bond, like every actor had his own way, I guess, in a way. If mm-hmm. that makes sense. Like Connery, it was, it had that classic, and he was cold. He was definitely very cold, but he's still, compared to Daniel Craig, he was lighter. Who would have ever thought that?
He had a sense of humor.
Yes, he really did. He's like, and his little, I was talking about it with one of my friends the other day. I was like, you can't go up to somebody or to a female like how Connery did in Goldfinger, say, I'm going to put you over my knee or something like that, or gotta go Dink, man talk, and then just slap her right in the butt, just something like that. You can't do that nowadays. But when we go back and watch it, it's like, wow, it's just a different generation, and just how things were at that time. Yeah, I think there's sometimes, like, especially when the Thanksgiving, since we're right around the corner, and I was trying to look for it too, is like a Thanksgiving James Bond marathon. Granted, I own every single James Bond movie, Blu-rays, and I still have some of the old DVDs, but I don't care how many times I've watched them. I'll still stop what I'm doing. Yeah, I'll bypass football just to watch the James Bond marathon. And my dad's looking at me like I'm crazy. It's like, what? Huh? What? I'm like, well, it's just something about those movies. I just, can come back to them at any time. And like you said, there's a Bond movie for, depending on your mood. So absolutely.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've got my dad's. My dad was a huge James Bond fan, and so I've actually got all of his old beta tapes.
Wow.
I don't know if people know actually what beta is anymore, but
I can say I've heard of it before. Yeah.
I've actually got all his old Betamax tapes. I think the last one he bought on Betamax was, I think it was Octopussy.
My goodness.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So it's, ranging from that up to, the Blu-rays and the DVDs today. So
yeah, there's always like a new collection coming out. I don't remember even what the newest one was, but when they had like the 50th anniversary Blu-ray box set, that's what I bought. And I knew they already even had a sleeve in there for Skyfall. I'm like, oh, okay, well, they won't be doing anything like for the next couple of years. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Less than a year later. So I'm like, all right, well, and now I'm starting to buy them on like the digital HD copy because I'm back and forth whether I want to have the actual disc or not. So I've had to like start making sure that I buy all the HD copies so I can have them. So I'm rebuying them all over again. So there you go. All right.
Behold the power of Eon.
Exactly. Yes, they have me. All right. So who is your favorite Batman actor? Is it going to be Bale or do you have somebody else?
I'm going to have to say Val Kilmer. No, I'm kidding. I'm just
Goodbye. Click. No, I'm kidding. No.
And the interview was cut short.
Absolutely not. No, everybody is entitled to their opinion. As they say, all movies are subjective, so it's all good.
Yeah, no. I saw Keaton in 1989 when Batman first came out, when the first Batman film came out, and that guy's always going to stuck in opposing Batman, or I'm not sure if he captured the physicality of Batman very well, but the attitude, just the presence. I mean, everyone still remembers that when he's got that guy at the on the rooftop, right? And just, who are you? And I'm Batman, and he's just like, that's just like the coolest thing ever.
It is.
But what I really liked about him is the way that he kind of captured, Bruce Wayne. There wasn't this. He didn't even try to kind of put on this kind of playboy act. It was just he was just a really, really rich, weird guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Knox even said it too. He's just like just something about being rich, weird guy or something like that. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, I remember it was Vicky Vale, and I can't remember what the other reporter's name was.
Alexander Knox.
Yeah, and they were walking through his armor collection.
Yes.
And he's a king of the Wicker people, and it's just like. There's just this weird kind of eccentricity about the whole thing. That's like, that to me would be more what Bruce Wayne would actually be like.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But then you also have to go to, you talk about your favorite actors. You also have to go to, the animated series.
And there you go. Okay.
What they captured there was just absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the animated series, I remember watching it a little bit when I was a kid, and I never got into the, even though they had reruns of it, the Adam West Batman, I guess after I saw 89 and Batman Returns when I was younger, I'm like, oh, that's a really funny Batman. I don't know if I'm really into that at all. Just like the tights and the underwear over the suit and stuff like that. I'm like, But, no, I want to go back and revisit those just because. And they had recently the new animated movie with those returning characters of Adam West, doing an animated Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders, something like that. Even the animated Batman: The Killing Joke, I went to see that in theaters. So,
what did you think of that?
I liked it. I need to go back and rewatch it, but I mean, I love anything with the Joker and Batman. Mark Hamill's Joker, even though I never mention it enough on here, which I should, just that Joker in there, and it was more of a Joker origin story for those of you that haven't read the comic book or even seen the movie. It was really cool watching that because once again, it, like you said, anything with the Joker in a Batman movie usually overshadows Batman, unfortunately. Yeah. But that can be a good thing too. So I did like it. It was, the Batgirl stuff at the beginning, it just felt felt like it was thrown in there, and then once he's walking into Arkham Asylum, spoiler alert, it just kind of, that's where the actual movie begins. And how the ending, I won't spoil that, but it was like, I asked my friend, I was like, that was it? He's like, that was it. I was like, interesting. I was like, okay, wow. So I liked it. I mean, I don't know. It's not my favorite Batman movie, of course, but I did enjoy it, though. It had some stuff that, I mean, I've obviously never seen in an animated movie. Some things that, they definitely took from the movies. Obviously, Burton borrowed from that. Nolan definitely borrowed from that. So, maybe they can eventually adapt that story to a live version. Maybe Ben Affleck can borrow from it maybe one day. I highly doubt it, but maybe whenever the next iteration of Batman will be, there's always that animated in the comics to go to. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, and it's weird, when you ask if what's your favorite Batman movie, I really, really enjoyed the animated was it The Mask of the Phantasm?
I've never seen that before. See,
you've never seen that one?
No, I've never seen that. No.
You've never seen The Mask? Oh, my friend, I'm serious. You've got to rent that movie or download it or whatever. It's absolutely, it's incredible. I mean, it's because what it is, it's like the animated series brought up to like PG-13 level.
Oh, okay. I like that already. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get the kind of the same essence, the same characters, it's all the same voice actors in a much more in-depth story, but just with a slightly heightened sense of the danger of the violence of the, it's just a more serious, darker animated series episode. But it's a great movie, and it's still the one. I mean, it's another one. We're talking about Bond films, but it's another one. When it comes on TV, it's like, watching this one right now.
I think I have something to watch this weekend between that and Suicide Squad. I believe that comes out on HD or DVD this week, as a matter of fact. So I'll definitely. Yeah, I know everybody. Like especially people who are a fan of the animated series. They always say, definitely check out Mask of the Phantasm or is it Phantasm? I think. Yeah.
I think it's Phantasm.
Phantasm, right? Yeah, it's on my list. There's, like I said, there's so many different Batman. Because with Batman movies, I'm used to, originally when I did this, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to focus strictly on Batman films and live action. But, going back, it's like, wow, there's a whole lot of Batman animated that I could definitely check out, which I never did. And, now you have even the Lego Batman. And the Lego Batman, I got to say, I don't care. I mean, actually, right before I came on here, I was like staring at my Lego set that I just bought when I was up in New York. And it's the Batman v Superman Lego set. I got to say, I'm like a little kid all over again. And, and seeing the trailer, I was like, that's a really interesting interpretation of Batman. Shut up and take my money because I'm going there opening night. So they've done a really good job of those films. They have, and there's all different Batmans. So we have the animated, we have the Lego, and we have live action. So there's no better time than now to be a Batman fan. But there's also James Bond, of course. So who is your favorite James Bond actor?
I don't want to try and tie this back into the movies too much. Right. Again, it really depends on my mood, but on a consistent overall level, until Diamonds Are Forever, I'd have to say Connery.
Good choice.
Simply because it was my dad's favorite. It's what I grew up watching before I was old enough to even get into the movies. So he just, I think what you were saying before, he just kind of captured this. He's just kind of the anchor around which the rest of it kind of revolves. It's I mean, I think just in terms of the personification of what you imagine when you think James Bond, he's still that guy.
Yep.
But I think tons of credit to Daniel Craig. I mean, the guy has done an amazing job of refreshing the franchise and bringing it not back from the dead, obviously, but just taking it in a different direction that I think people were ready for and were really appreciative of. And Timothy Dalton, just hugely underrated.
Yeah.
I have to say I had such high hopes, and it's not his fault. I had such high hopes for Pierce Brosnan. I really, really did, because he was let down by the films, I feel, not him as the actor. I mean, his, killing Elektra and still that kind of like I never miss is such a Bond moment for him.
That was Sean Connery, cold right there. It really was.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, The World Is Not Enough is actually, it's not the best Bond film, but it is one that I do enjoy. That would probably be my second favorite out of the Pierce Brosnan era. It's like, what could have been? I mean, the story was mediocre, but it was the stories that he had, unfortunately. It was what he was given. I'm sure, he did a movie called The November Man, came out a couple years ago,
Yes.
and, that's actually a darker Pierce Brosnan James Bond, so I encourage anybody who's a James Bond fan to go check that out, because it actually has a Bond girl in there, Olga Kurylenko, and she is one of the main girls in there. So and they actually play off well with each other, so it's kind of cool to see two different Bond eras with each other in the same movie.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, even when he was announced as Bond, and I remember the first teaser trailer coming out for that.
Yep.
For Goldeneye. And it was, as the gun barrel kind of, going across the screen, and all of a sudden he walks out and, he does, the classic stance and the shot. And then he just walks up and he's like, what, you're expecting someone else?
Yes.
And you're like, no, you're perfect. You're exactly the guy we were looking for.
Oh, what's so funny is, now that you mention it, is because at the time of recording, it is actually the oh my God, GoldenEye came out in 1995, so it's actually the anniversary of GoldenEye today. And it's just, looking back, and just how many people on social media were just saying it's just that it just holds up, or it's just one of their favorite Bond films. And once again, even going back with Bond films, I know we could talk about this forever. I want to make sure I get to your site too. That I'm sorry that yeah, with Bond films, when you watch a Bond film, like for example, your dad along with my dad, they both grew up with Sean Connery as their James Bond. Mine had the VHS tape, of Thunderball, Goldfinger, and Diamonds Are Forever. And I always stared at them. I'm like, what are these, Dad? He's like, you're not old enough to watch them just yet. I'm like, but they're PG. And he's like, not yet. And then when I eventually did, I mean, actually the first Bond movie I saw was GoldenEye. So it feels like the first Bond movie that you ever watch will almost be forever your James Bond. Even if it is, say, I think of anything off the top of my head, but it doesn't matter. I mean, whatever Bond movie, some people, I believe it was what's that?
Example.
Okay, Moonraker. There you go. If Moonraker was
that was mine.
that was yours, really?
Yeah, I actually went and saw that in the cinema.
Oh, how was Star Wars? I'm kidding. No, I mean, even now I can go back. I can pick out something that I like about every Bond film. Moonraker, there's actually a particular line I thought about the other day. It's when he drops Drax's henchman when he's in where is he? I think he's actually in Italy, if I'm not mistaken, or if he's in Paris. I forget which one it is. Anyway, he drops him out, and then he drops him into the piano. And he's like, play it again, Sam. I love that. It's just something about that Roger Moore humor, just those little one-liners. It just, heartbroken, Mr. Drax, anything like that. It just, you can find something good about all the Bond films, but so
no, that's a film that gets kind of but the thing is with that movie is that everyone remembers the last 30 minutes of it.
Yes.
Right. Which is, the big Star Wars, we're in space, we're firing lasers at each other and all the rest of it. And, the fact is that, the first hour and 45 minutes of that film is it's just great.
Right. And the villain of Drax, he is a great villain. It just, something about him, he's like, you missed Mr. Bond. Did I? It just, see, now I want to go watch that, even though it's like a guilty pleasure of James Bond almost. But let's talk about iconic-alternatives.com. All right. So you've had the site up for a year now. We've talked about how it came together. What I particularly love about your site is not only how specific you are with the clothing and accessories that Bond wore in the movies, but how you offer multiple affordable alternatives, like, hence the name, obviously. But you include finds from the viewers of your site, and I really, admire that. You're saying, oh, well, so-and-so, mentioned this, and this is another great alternative. So I didn't know if you wanted to touch on that at all.
In terms of why I do it, or just the thing is that the site was born from it was born from a forum. It was born from a community of Bond fans, and not recognizing that, and not recognizing the incredible people that are doing all this research and finding all these different things. To me, it just feels wrong, right? That's just not the right way to do something like this and keep it part of the community. So I really enjoy it because, inevitably what happens is I'll go digging for something. Like, the holy grail for everyone, for whatever reason, seems to be like this black shawl collar cardigan from Quantum of Solace.
Yes. Yeah, that's really hard to find.
And everyone's looking for one, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll go digging. I'll be like, I have, and I'll literally say, it's like, I just can't find anything. And then somebody will go like, oh, here's one. Mm-hmm. And you'll be like, oh, man, come on.
Yeah.
It's like, where did you find it? He's like, on JCPenney. And you're like, oh, come on.
Right. It's actually on my wish list right now, as a matter of fact. Yeah, because it's starting to get cold here in the DC area, as a matter of fact. I wish actually I had it this weekend, but as a matter of fact, this weekend, like I said, I went to your site. I'm like planning, because you and I had talked before about, it was the Harrington jacket from Quantum of Solace, which I just watched actually. And I'm like, and you might have mentioned this already, that or at least on your site, that something about the style of Bond in that movie was definitely he wore so many different outfits in there, but it's just something that I guess as a Bond fan, it's like, you know what, we don't always have to dress in a suit, but he wore even like a polo and jeans and a jacket. And it's just like, we have to have that. We have to find those Tom Ford sunglasses or the replica sunglasses, which are almost impossible to find now. And
yeah, no, and that's really what I love doing about the site is just finding these discoveries and other people getting excited about sharing what they've found as well. Mm-hmm. And the next step for me, which I'm really enjoying now, is getting people from the community to write for the site, to come on and share their finds, share their information, share their knowledge and their expertise. Mm-hmm. And we're coming up with some just incredible articles. Like, there's James Brosnan, who's one of the writers on the site, and this guy, I mean, I have to give him all the credit in the world, because he is just the biggest Roger Moore style fan, and he'll come to me with things, with ideas. Mm-hmm. He'll pitch something like, I want to do, the powder blue denim suit that Roger Moore wore in Live and Let Die, and you'll be like, dude, come on, like that.
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
And then he'll, it's like, and then he'll write his article, and he'll get the draft of it, and he'll include pictures of himself, in an updated, in more of an inspired by than a direct, copy of that outfit. Mm-hmm. And you're like, you've done it again. You've nailed it. Like, I don't know how you do this. You've got way more imagination than I ever would. Yeah. So I that's something that I really like about the site is hoping it can become kind of this extension. It's not just about, it's not about me at all. It's mm-hmm. really about the community and opening up the space more to let more of the community, share what they want to share. I think is a very important evolution in the site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I know that. I mean, like I said, even going back to like the Pierce Brosnan movies when they were coming out, I would see something in Say the World Is Not Enough, and I know you'll know this outfit when he was battling Elektra at the very end, I guess, chasing her. He's in that white suit with the blue button-down shirt. And here I am in high school. True story. I wore something just like that, minus the jacket. And I know that all like my fellow students and my teachers are probably like, this kid's too dressed up for high school. And then come college, comes Die Another Day. And then, what is it? The black turtleneck that I had to have. And, here I am over the weekend. Guess what I found? I tried to find an alternative to the, it's the suede racer jacket that Daniel Craig wore at the end of Spectre. And I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but I don't know. I'd say it's pretty close, as close as I could find. It's from Zara.
Is that the one you were looking at them in?
Yeah,
Zara.
Yeah, Zara. Yeah. Zara. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I ended up buying it. Yeah, impulse buy. But I wanted that for the last year or so, and it just. When I checked earlier this year, it was sold out because it was on clearance for like $79.99 or whatever. But now it's back, and it's higher than that, but it's at a reasonable price anyway. But stuff like that. And I'm like, and then I wear it that night, and I'm wearing a turtleneck. I'm like, hey, I feel like James Bond. It's like I don't always have to put on the Batman suit to cosplay it or whatever. I can wear this, and it almost makes you feel like James Bond. I don't know if that makes like you or some of the writers feel like that at all or not. If I'm the only one, but
no, absolutely. Look, I think what it comes down to is why are people inspired by that style and by that. When I wrote one of the articles at the start, it was really about the attitude behind it. Mm-hmm. The fact that you can put on like a suede jacket or you can put on whatever you want, but it's not going to make you James Bond because it's the attitude while you're wearing it that makes you James Bond.
Right.
And it's interesting to me to find this kind of balance between, okay, you're just copying an outfit. Are you just cosplaying, or are you actually getting inspired by the style? And I lean more towards the inspired by than, I want to dress exactly, dress up in a costume. It's, I find it's interesting. You find these pieces, and I think one of the most popular features that we have on the site are these kind of 4 ways to wear it kind of posts that we do,
right,
where we kind of take one of these iconic pieces, like the black shawl collar cardigan or the Harrington jacket, or whatever, or the blazer that he wore in Spectre, and we kind of say, look, you're going to be investing a lot of money in this if you're serious about it, probably, right. And you don't have to, but you're probably going to want to. And so you need to find a way to make it actually a functional part of what you wear on a day-to-day basis, or else it's just you might as well just lock it up in a glass case and leave it there. Exactly.
Yeah, and going with the Harrington jacket, and I was when I saw that on is it Royale? Was it called Royale Filmwear? I think it is.
Oh yeah, Dan's site. Daniel's site.
Yes. And I even was talking to you about it, and you're like, you better hurry up because they're on their last sizes of small and large. And because I had a medium in my shopping cart at the time, and all of a sudden I checked back like a couple hours later, it was gone. So I went with the small. Luckily, I mean, I can, I might have to drop a few more pounds in my gut or whatever. But I mean, I bought it, and here I am, and I went to your website, and it just, I'm like, well, wait a minute. I know the blue polo, I can wear that with. Like he did at the end of Quantum of Solace. But, I mean, there's other ideas. And I'm like, looking at this, I'm like, oh, hey, I would have never thought of that. And it's a great website. So definitely check it out.
I think my favorite one from the 4 ways to wear it was the when I did the, Bond meets Heisenberg look for a pair of pants or something like that.
I did see that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I just need to.
Let's call this one Bond meets Heisenberg because I've run out of ideas.
Genius. All right, let me ask you this: out of all of the Bonds, who would you say had the best style, or has the best style? Maybe
I think the truth, for all the criticism, not criticism. I don't want to say that, but maybe. The undeserving lack of love that Roger Moore gets, that man could dress, boy, holy smokes, like in formal, like in slightly more formal or business wear, that guy could really pull it off. I mean, if you, took an inch off the lapels or kind of weren't wearing flared pants, James Brosnan has really kind of shown me the way on this one. It really appreciative of the tailoring that was done for Roger Moore. It was absolutely incredible. I think with casual style, it's just got to be Daniel Craig, simply because I think they took the casual style of what he was wearing as seriously as the suits.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think that had really been done before. I mean, if you look at somebody like Timothy Dalton, they kind of stuck him in, baggy windbreakers and a pair of navy pants and said, go at it. And, that was his casual style.
Right. Yeah. And Daniel Craig is definitely one, he mentioned in his interview recently and last month when he was in New York, and you're just watching him in the interview, what he was wearing, and just how he takes it very seriously. I believe his grandfather was a tailor, if I'm not mistaken. And he has that thing about the style of the suit, the cut of the suit. And like we said before, just like about even wearing jeans, but he can wear it stylishly while he's still kicking ass at the same time. And and it's like you said, there's so many different alternatives that you could do, or you don't have to have the big Tom Ford name brand. I mean, if you can afford it, that's great, absolutely. But if you can't, but there's still other options, which is also good too. Yeah, so I really like that. So I know we've talked a lot about James Bond, but let's talk real quick about Bruce Wayne style. Do you have how are you doing on time right now?
How am I doing on time?
Yeah, I don't want to keep you too long. Like I said, I can ramble.
I probably have another 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I just want to make sure we have time for you to make the announcement and stuff. That's all.
Thanks. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Bruce Wayne, Batman, just a little bit. Obviously, like I said, you can't. Not everybody can wear the cowl and the cape outside every single day. If they do, then they're going to get a lot of looks. But as for the style of Bruce Wayne, and I think I picked up more on it now, especially with, say, Ben Affleck's Batman, when he's, dressed as Bruce Wayne, his style. What are your thoughts on him? Because I know he's wearing a lot more like kind of vest in a way, not so much he's wearing more 3-piece suits in a way.
Yeah, It's one of those funny things because I never, I mean, the suit that you associate with Bruce Wayne and Batman is not that type of suit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that I ever really paid a lot of attention to. And until, you look back, after I started the site, I started looking back because you're always looking for inspiration. You're always looking for new ideas to write about and new topics. And so you look back and you actually realize that, a lot of what Christian Bale was wearing and as Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, I mean, that's some really, really nice clothing that man has on.
Yeah. Definitely.
So when it came to, Batman versus Superman, it wasn't something I paid a lot of attention to in terms of what was that style aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just more interested in seeing him in the Frank Miller full-on Batman armor suit. That was the one I wanted to see.
Oh, and it paid off. At least in my mind, it paid off. It was well worth that wait. Yeah. Even like we were saying about Christian Bale, I mean, I'm trying to think right now, I'm wrecking my mind, but I would say the most dressed down I ever saw him was when he was riding his motorcycle in the middle of the movie. And he's, obviously he can't go out as Batman during the day, but he has like that motorcycle jacket and stuff like that. And I tried to find that one year, and that's really hard to find. And even if you find it like on an Amazon or eBay, it's pretty pricey too. So
no, they didn't cheap out on any of that clothing. That's
no,
for sure.
they didn't.
I mean, why should they? I mean, it's part of the character, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think I think the one that I just in terms of just him fitting that kind of character and actually being not Bruce Wayne, the public figure, and not Batman, the hero, but just being Bruce Wayne himself was at the end of Batman Begins when he's wearing, he's getting he's sealing up the top of the cave, and he's wearing that kind of like long sleeve blue polo and the khakis, and he's just kind of standing there. And you realize the guy is like, who goes out and does work like that wearing like, probably a $2,000 cashmere polo shirt? Bruce Wayne does it. Okay, good enough.
Yeah. Oh, it's just another sweater. Absolutely. It's just another, button down, polo shirt. Oh, well, I can buy another. It's okay. Bond would be like, well, can Q Branch finance this? Because I don't know if I can, because they're not going to be too happy with me after this. Right. So, I know that you're short on time and you got to get going, but you have a big announcement, and I'll leave it at that. But go for it.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. It's just in celebration of our 1-year anniversary that's coming up, we are going to be having our reader appreciation contest. We'll be announcing on our social media sites on Facebook and on Instagram, and obviously on our site. We got some great prizes coming up for the people that have been supporting us so far. Herring Shoes is donating a pair of boots. We have Canterbury Crystal is actually donating some tumblers from Casino Royale.
Nice.
We've got McKellen. We've actually got McKellen donating whiskey to go along with those.
I'll put in a bid for that.
There's no bidding, my friend. You just have to enter the contest.
All right.
And what else do we have? We've got Gagliardi, which is a excellent clothing maker they're actually out of Malta, but they're donating a full black tie outfit. So everything from, the smoking jacket, pants, bow tie, shirt, everything. They're bringing that as a prize as well. We've just got some, who else do we have? Chemex. Is donating an actual kind of, from the novels from the Bond novels, a Chemex coffee maker, coffee filter system. We also have, who else? I'm just trying to think of, we just have some really, really great prizes coming up for some great people. And we'll be announcing them basically one a day on our social media sites and on our website. And that's all starting next week.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. If I'm not excluded, maybe I might enter into it, possibly.
I'm sorry. This interview avoids you from participating.
Oh, it's okay. I have just a little McKellen downstairs, and, I'll just enjoy my suede jacket. It's okay.
Just going under a different name.
Yeah, definitely. I can do that. Yeah. I have a good nickname. Mr. Arlington Beach.
There you go.
There we go. Perfect. So, all right. Well, I will let you go, but I want you to plug your website one more time, social media, everything, where we can find you.
Yeah, so obviously the address is iconicalternatives.com. You can find us at Instagram, Iconic Alternatives. You can find us on Facebook under Iconic Alternatives. We were real original with naming our different social media sites. Pinterest, I think Pinterest is the only place where I think we're under Iconic Alt. Okay. Because they don't allow a very long name on Pinterest. Mm-hmm. But you can find us on any of those sites. And, for participating in the Reader Appreciation Contest, we're not looking for likes. We're not looking for people to start following us or anything like that. If you want to, we'd love you to do it. Thank you very much. But I want to just keep this very, simple and easy for everyone. Because, obviously without the visitors, without those people inspiring us and motivating us, we wouldn't keep doing this. So it's just a way of saying thank you to everyone for helping us get through the first year and to grow the way that we have.
Very good, very good. And I mean this in the nicest way. I might have to shy away from your site like after Christmas time because I can't afford it anymore. I really can't. I just have I have that wish list. And I just have the I wants right now. And like I said, with the holiday season, it's so tough right now. So I'm like, and if I put that on my wish list right now, my family is just like, huh? What are you talking about? I'm like, just look at the picture. Go to this website. So iconicalternatives.com. John, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you had a great time.
I did. Thank you so much. It was awesome. Great talking to you.
And to you as well. And hopefully get to talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. And once again, a big thank you to John from Iconic Alternatives. Really appreciate him coming on the show. Definitely get on that contest. That's iconicalternatives.com. Check out his website. He's got a lot of great stuff on there, especially for a James Bond fan. Batman fans, I know that sometimes it's obviously hard to wear your Cowan cape out there, especially if you're a cosplayer. You can't just wear that to work every single day. Or you can't wear that out on the weekends. I mean, you can. I mean, I know that I don't. I mean, I usually say it for the Comic Cons or some kind of special events and stuff like that, but definitely check that out. So before we finish up the show, I did want to get to a couple things on here, specifically news specific. This week it was actually just announced today at the day of recording, Metro Goldwyn, that would be MGM for those of you that didn't know that, they expect Bond 25 to come out, quoted, over the next few years, says CEO Gary Bieber. He was saying that, he didn't get into any specifics at all, but we'll just say that he was on a conference call with some investors and analysts, and, he was calling James Bond a premium franchise, or he was talking about premium franchise titles, and, over the next few years, we expect to release a few, and he included Bond 25 in the list. And after that, I was just like, okay, you don't have to talk about any other movies. You say Bond 25 in the next few years. Now you have my attention. And this is the CEO of MGM. I mean, I don't think a CEO would just go out and say that, hey, we're gonna possibly release a Bond movie. We're gonna possibly release a Batman film. They know what they have, folks. They know that they have a franchise. Bond is it's a brand name in itself, and the amount of money, while Spectre maybe didn't make as much money as, say, Skyfall, it made a great deal of money. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I will say that it's something that us as Bond fans, but we've been waiting for this. I mean, you'd go back to throughout this whole year, and we'll talk about this at the end of the year roundup, which I will have, but just Daniel Craig saying, hey, I appreciate what the Bond franchise has done, and maybe I will come back, something along those lines. So it's just, I don't know about you, but I'm dying here already. It's just just give me the news. Just tell me if Bond 25 is going to be produced by Eon Productions and MGM. And Daniel Craig will be returning in the tux at least one more time. And then, I can sleep a little bit more. So I'm excited about this. Any kind of Bond news, as I will take any kind of little tidbit that I can get right now, but something like this, I definitely wanted to make sure that I did talk about. All right, next little tidbit of news that I have for you is a little exhibition that's going in a place called Dubai, and it has to do with a certain character by the name of James Bond 007, and it is called Designing 007, 50 Years of Bond Style. It's a new exhibition opening at the Annex, and I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, Burj Khalifa. It just opened up this week, actually today at the time of recording, November 14th. The exhibition was put together in 2012 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Bond film franchise by London's Barbican Performing Arts Centre. It's curated with the help of Eon Productions, the London company that produces the film franchise. We all know Everything or Nothing Productions, created by Cubby Broccoli, and it's still owned by the Broccoli family to this day. And this exhibition brings actual items that were used in the filming of the blockbuster movies. Some things that it includes is Scaramanga's golden gun, Daniel Craig's wardrobe from Casino Royale, the Spectre Aston Martin DB10. Actually, I posted a little video of it. And it was like a trailer that they did of somebody getting into the Aston Martin DB10, driving up onto the scene, and you actually see this exhibition, and it's huge. It's really, really huge. And I mean, even if I tried to beg and plead with my wife right now, there's not a chance that I'm going to be able to get over to it. I could, just shower her with gifts, and she would be like, no, it's not going to happen. But for those of you that can make it to it, definitely try to get out to it. It's going on from now, November 14th to February 13th. Tickets to the exhibition can be found at I'm going to spell this out, www.burjkhalifa.ae/EN/James Bond. And definitely check that out. Like I said, if you were a Bond fan, this looks like something to see. I know that they had a whole bunch of Bond girls on there. Katarina Marino was there. They were even talking about like the Bond girls, kind of how they shot down the popular belief that they were hypersexualized and claimed that they aren't just glamorous eye candies. Katarina Marino, the Italian actress, she was in Casino Royale, more closer to the beginning with Daniel Craig in there, and she played Solange in there. As a matter of fact, she was the girlfriend of one of the baddies in there. But anyway, she was quoted with saying, "The Bond women are tough. It's a character that nobody could resist, not even James Bond. We are glamorous and intelligent, very strong characters with big brains." And, I was thinking about this a lot. And, even my go-to is always my wife, of course, because she is my Bond girl and she is my Wonder Woman, of course. She probably will never ever hear that. But anyway, at least you guys did. Anyway, besides the point though, I know that at least when she sees me watching Bond movies, she's like, "Oh, you and your Bond girls, you and your Batman girls," or whatever. It's like, if you really watch these movies though, and these Bond girls, they've really, even throughout the years, even going back to Honey Rider, she was a tough girl. You look at Pussy Galore, she was super tough. And then coming into the Roger Moore era, Anya Mosova, it's like she went toe-to-toe with James Bond. Michelle Yeoh, even in Tomorrow Never Dies, she was kicking just as much ass as Pierce Brosnan. I would say even more with some of those fight sequences that she had in there. You look at the Bond girls now, and they're not just like damsels in distress. They're not. And that's exactly what she's saying is, they are glamorous, they're intelligent, and, they can maybe not always go physically toe-to-toe with James Bond, but they are super intelligent, and there's more to them than meets the eye. Pardon the pun there. Anyway, a couple other actresses that were out there were Irka Bochenko from Moonraker and Tanya, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry, Sotericho Polo, who appeared in Skyfall. They were quoted saying, "I believe that the Bond women occupy timeless, iconic image. She has evolved with time. They were always tough when we take on Bond. We had Bond more real, not just an elusive secret agent." Also quoted saying, "I believe that is a balance of femininity. Women are not built to be as strong as a man when it comes to muscles. So when it comes to women, they use their femininity, and sexuality to defeat some of them." Even going back to Katarina Marino, she was saying, she kind of went a step further and called those roles progressive and felt the roles assigned to the women in Bond films reflected the times that they were living in. Kind of what I was just saying, though. She said, 4 years ago, we would not have been able to do that. They were looking for young women. The women today are much more mature and are beautiful, too. The people behind the Bond films are smart, said Marino. And she was also adding that the fictional character in Fleming's film Series M was always played by a woman. She's the big brains behind Bond, she said. So, obviously, in the time that we're living in, and so forth, that, go on record with me saying this, that, you don't need to be sexist about this. I mean, women can go toe-to-toe with Bond. Honestly, something I'd like to see, while we're on the subject of Bond girls is, I'd like to see a true female villain versus James Bond. I really want to see that. I mean, I know that there's been talks in the forums about this and such, but I mean, the closest thing that I can think of that we've ever really gotten is, what's her name? Sophie Marceau in The World Is Not Enough. And yeah, she was, if you really look at that movie, she was, spoiler alert, she was the main villain of it, but it just touched on it, what could have been. She was cold and she was more psychotic, if anything, but I want even more. I mean, let's face it, that there are some really strong female villains out there. I mean, even Rosamund Pike in Die Another Day, I know we're going to the Pierce Brosnan era right there. She was just like, oh, she's, Miss Frost really was cold. But if you look at her in a movie such as, and this is actually where she was with a Batman actor, Gone Girl, it's just like, oh, she can, an actress, can do just as much as an actor. And, I think it's long overdue for a female Bond villain. I will still stand by my comment that, James Bond, the character of James Bond should only still be played by a male. I still stand by that. And that's why Ian Fleming created the character. That's what he intended it to be, should I say. If they want, if other franchises want to be created, to be like James Bond, having a female as lead, I'm all for that. But I still feel like, that's why, for example, in the Batman, franchises, they have Batman, they've created Batgirl, they've created a female Robin, for example, they've created all of that, they've created Supergirls, they've created all kinds of things like that. But besides the point, though, women are tough, women are strong, they should be given more opportunities for these kind of roles, and they shouldn't just be looked at as damsels in distress. So there you go, mic drop on that. Anyway, last bit of news here. Suicide Squad has ended its domestic box office run, and guess what? And can you believe that? It actually came out in August, and now this week it's actually coming out on digital HD, the extended cut. I will be buying that and watching that by the time that you listen to this episode. And guess what? It just came $5 million shy of Batman v Superman. Now, mind you, Suicide Squad hit theaters on August 5th. At the time of recording, we're here in the middle of November, and it finally just ended in the United States and in Canada, and with all the critical reception that movie received, okay, it was bashed on. I mean, it was horribly bashed on, to the point that I remember when I went with some of my friends and my wife, and I'm like, I don't understand why this got bashed. I truly don't. I think that it was an enjoyable movie. I had a great time with it. Yeah, I mean, I could nitpick that all over the place. Yeah, I could say, oh, well, pretty much, the Suicide Squad just battled a Ghostbusters villain. There, I said it. At the same time, though, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. There's so many different things. You could tell that the editing was off or whatever, and I'm hoping this extended cut does fix some of that or adds, more of what I want to see. Of course, I want to see more of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. Who doesn't? I want to see more of Jared Leto's Joker, because he filmed more than what was actually put in there. So hopefully we get to see more of that. But the bottom line is that it ended up making $325.1 million, which is just $5 million less than Batman v Superman. It came in at $330.3 million domestically. Over worldwide, we can talk numbers and so forth, making $745 million worldwide. But point is, though, if especially this week, it does come out. So if you are buying digital copies, definitely check out the extended cut. I will be doing a review of the extended cut. I know I've done a review already of Suicide Squad. Of course, I like talking about this. That's hence why I have a podcast. But I will be talking about the new additions to Suicide Squad, so look for that to come. So let's move into some birthdays and anniversaries to finish the show off. So lots of little birthdays here. Ones that I almost forgot actually was Art Malik. He celebrated a birthday on November 13th. He played Cameron Shaw in The Living Daylights. Now, when I went back and watched The Living Daylights, there was a movie called True Lies that already came out. And for those of you that haven't seen True Lies, it's a little Arnold Schwarzenegger movie directed by James Cameron, and he's a spy, and his wife has no idea about it. But the main baddie in there is actually Art Malik, and he's playing the main villain in here. And I'm thinking, it's like, oh, so you went from playing an ally in a Bond movie in Living Daylights with Timothy Dalton to now you're playing, which pretty much is like a James Bond movie in True Lies, but you're like the main villain in this. You're playing the terrorist in this. So I thought that was pretty interesting. If you want to always, we can always say that James Bond elements are always around, especially in the spy movie genre, and action movies also, but definitely thought that was a cool little tidbit. But no, I liked him as an ally in there. I mean, we didn't get to see him until maybe, I think total time that we actually saw him in the film was maybe 5-10 minutes, but I liked him. He was good. One actress that celebrated a birthday today on the day of recording is Miss Oya Karolinko. She celebrated a birthday on November 14th. She played Camille in Quantum of Solace, which I just watched about a couple hours ago. And I gotta say that, despite what people think of Quantum of Solace, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes here, she definitely delivered as a Bond girl. And, and just how we were talking about Bond girls and just having they can go toe-to-toe with 007. They're not just beautiful women. They're very intelligent. They're very tough. And that would describe to a T what Camille is in Quantum of Solace. And you notice that she had, and I think that somebody did best describe this online as she has kind of more like that sister element to James Bond. It's just like, okay, well, she's not just a Bond girl who just, goes to sleep with him and just, that he ends up, and that's it for the movie. It's like, no, she's actually has her own little backstory. If you haven't seen the movie, spoiler right here, but, her parents were murdered in front of her, along with her sisters by this, this insane general, if you want to call him that. And she's out to get revenge. I mean, Bond crosses paths with her because they're after a different person in the same organization. And, she's out for revenge. Bond's out for revenge in this, but she played it off so well. There's a particular part that I love in Quantum of Solace. And it's just when, past all when things actually settle down in the movie, you get her backstory and she, just how she tells it. And she just the facial expressions that she has. It's just like, yeah, she was a model. She's not the best actress, but she definitely portrayed that part very, very well and definitely very underrated. So let's move on here. Yaphet Kotto, who celebrated a birthday on November 15th, celebrates a birthday this week also, and he played Mr. Kananga, Mr. Big in Live and Let Die. Yeah, definitely a villain that I think that sometimes gets forgotten, but if you're a Live and Let Die fan, you definitely know about Mr. Big's I guess we'll get it. Pardon the pun. His biggest line in there, one of my favorite lines in there, when Roger Moore, James Bond, is doing his first introduction. My name is Names of a Tombstones, baby. And it's like, yes, I know I've talked about it on the show before. I still love it to this day. Just how he cuts him off. We're waiting for that iconic. The name's Bond, James Bond, and Mr. Big's just like, I don't care who you are. You're in the Bronx, buddy, and yeah, I don't care. So I'm sorry, you're in Harlem, and what you can be dressed in that fancy suit, and you can be a super spy, but you're in my town, you're in my club. So gotta love that. And speaking of Sophie Marceau, she celebrates a birthday on November 17th. She played Miss Electric King in The World Is Not Enough. Now, I know I just talked about it like a couple minutes ago about Sophie Marceau playing the main villain in there and how I like to see more of that. I did like what they did with her in The World's Not Enough. Once again, a Bond movie that some people really like. Some people, just don't care for at all. They're very, they're saying, definitely wasn't Pierce's best. And I agree with that. It was a good movie. Probably my second favorite, like I've said, of the Pierce Brosnan era. But no, I particularly Sophie Marceau is not only is she a gorgeous Bond girl, but just the part that she played in this, she goes from like who you think is like kind of like this sheltered damsel in distress, and guess what? She's got an interesting backstory there. She's, as they like to say, she's got daddy issues in there, and which turns her practically psychotic in there. Which actually not practically, she really is, but definitely a movie worth checking out, and I think she does a great part in that. Batman birthdays also. I want to mention Danny DeVito. He celebrates a birthday on November 17th. We all know that he played Oswald Cobblepot, or AKA the Penguin in Batman Returns. Sure, everybody remembers from the Keaton era, Jack Nicholson's Joker, but I think that we always forget that, Danny DeVito did have some tough shoes to fill when it came to a villain. I mean, because it's Jack. I mean, it's, Jack Nicholson, the Jack Nicholson, and he's playing the Joker. It's like, duh, he's playing, that's a hard act to follow. But Danny DeVito's Penguin is a great villain. He's a really great villain, as a matter of fact. And I liked, I don't think there's anything I didn't like about his Penguin. And, sure, they can portray him, in a new style in Gotham. I've briefly checked that out, and it's like, okay, you can kind of make a guy look like a penguin, but if they ever do decide to bring the Penguin back onto the big screen, I think that, I don't know, Danny DeVito's performance is going to it's going to live on for quite a while as the Penguin, just in my mind anyway. And I know there's a lot of Batman Returns fans out there. And if you are a Batman Michael Keaton era fan, then you'll be a fan of this name, especially when you see him at the beginning credits of every Michael Keaton Batman movie. Sam Hamm, the writer of Batman and Batman Returns, he celebrates a birthday on November 19th. Yeah, I think we can all agree that the Keaton Batmans definitely hold a special place in our hearts. If anybody says anything remotely negative about them, it's blasphemy, and I will agree with that. And you know what? I would probably go as far as probably deleting you off my social media. No, I'm just kidding. No, whatever Batman fan you are, as long as you're a Batman fan, that's cool. But no, Sam Hamm definitely wrote some great stories with that. I mean, we can all agree. Michael Keaton played a great Batman. There were great villains in there with Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. Just mentioned Danny DeVito's Joker and Danny DeVito's Penguin and Jack Nicholson's Joker. And, I just think that overall, I mean, I'm not sure like how much of the complete story that he did, but I would say that overall the writing of that, you think back, when you think just of a writer, of how much they contribute to it, they come up with the base story, and if he had involvement in screenplay and so forth, I mean, those famous lines, I mean, whatever you have, but just something worth mentioning anyway. So before I forget, anniversaries, we have actually 3 big anniversaries this week. One that we just missed by a day was Goldeneye. Goldeneye celebrated a birthday on November 13th. You know what my motto is. When Goldeneye is on TV, everything stops, okay? Everything stops in my household. I don't care if I own that movie on my iTunes account. I don't care if I own it on my 50th anniversary Blu-ray box set. I don't care if I own it on DVD. And actually, I don't think I ever owned it on... yeah, I did own it on VHS. I remember my dad probably has that somewhere. We sold that, or we gave it away. Anyway, Goldeneye, one of my favorite Bond movies, and actually somebody did ask me today what my favorite James Bond movie is. I said Goldeneye is in my top 5, easy. Maybe it's because it's the first Bond movie experience that I've ever fully watched before. Is it Pierce Brosnan's performance in there? Is it Alec Trevelyan 006 for England, James? Is it the Q Branch scene? Is it the Omega Watch in there? Is it Isabella Scorpio's Natalia Semyonova? Is it I'm Invincible? Anything like that. I just love everything about that. I don't think there's one thing. All right, fine. I'll say it. One thing that the least favorite thing, and this is getting really nitpicky if you're a film fan, it's the score. There it is. It's the score. It's Eric Serra's score. It's mediocre. I was listening to it today at work, and I'm like, and of course the song that stands out, and it wasn't even by him, is the tank chase. It's that tank chase scene, and the score for it that goes along with it, because that's more of the orchestral James Bond. He did more of kind of a tech kind of thing, and it's just... that's something that I know as a Goldeneye fan that I'm not the biggest fan of. I mean, I can still listen to it, but just it's especially that dreadful end song that they have in there, The Experience of Love. I'll just mute it and just watch the rest of the credits, and I'll just turn on another Bond theme. But yes, happy anniversary Goldeneye, and happy anniversary to Quantum of Solace that celebrates an anniversary on November 14th. Like I said, just watch that. Probably it is the shortest Bond film ever made to this day. People can say what they want about Quantum of Solace. I will say this, that, I'll say this also, that it's underrated, but I will say that it's an interesting little follow-up to Casino Royale. Yeah, and when you watch this movie, it is better to watch Casino Royale and then go right into Quantum of Solace. I think maybe that's how it was intended. People will say that it is more of a Bourne James Bond. I can see that because it had the editors of it. I can see that, the story was not as good as Casino Royale. And to that argument, I would say, okay, well, there was a writer's strike, and then you had you had the director Mark Foster on there, and Daniel Craig having uncredited rights scenes as they were making this movie because of the writer's strike back in 2008. But besides the point, though, it's a really good Bond movie, and I want people to, if you haven't seen it, give it a chance. And if you didn't like it the first watch, go back and rewatch it. And I think it's one that ages very well. Scenes that stick out for me is definitely the Tuska scene, the opera scene in there. When you have the meeting of Quantum, and James Bond's he's doing exactly what his job is. He's spying on them, and then he has that little line in there. He's like, "May I offer an opinion? I really think you people need to find a better place to meet." And then they just all scatter, and he's taking shots on his cell phone and pictures and stuff. I was like, I love that. I truly love that. And I love the ending of that movie when he sneaks up, spoiler alert, on Vesper's boyfriend, Youssef. And I was just like, it's very reminiscent of the beginning of Casino Royale when he sneaks up on Dryden in there, and just like, he has this choice to kill, or does he not kill? Watch the movie and check it out. And speaking of Casino Royale, the big one turns 10 years old, if you can believe that. I feel really old right now. Turns 10 years old on November 17th. I'm not going to talk about that, but there's a reason I'm talking about that, because as always, I have something planned. Not my dog barking, but no, I have a 10-year anniversary show, 10-year anniversary special for Casino Royale. I will be doing a full-blown breakdown of that movie, celebrating its anniversary. So look for that to come probably in the next week or two. We'll see how schedule is. It might be. I'm probably looking at around Thanksgiving. I'm thinking, okay, if there's not going to be a James Bond Thanksgiving marathon, which I haven't found yet. If you have found one, let me know. But I would definitely be doing a review of Casino Royale to come. All right, so let's move into the final part of the show called Versus. Yes, this is the favorite part of the show right here, where we just get. Yeah, it always depends, and what you got to pick your poison here, especially if it's a James Bond versus James Bond, Batman versus Batman, or Batman versus James Bond. It's just with these, I really enjoy this. So that's why I do this, of course, because I always like what the opinions. I'm always surprised what the polls are going to be. For those of you that haven't listened to what Versus is where we compare films of the Batman or James Bond franchise versus others in the same wheelhouse. Sometimes Batman versus Batman, sometimes others versus James Bond. But make sure, and I always like to say, I'm especially saying this now, vote on Twitter. When I post this up, please post your vote on Twitter. I put a Twitter poll. It usually lasts for a day or two. All you have to do is just pick which movie you want, and then your vote definitely counts. So make sure you vote at Batman versus Bond. All right. So last week's Versus was a tough one. As I said, rather shaken but not stirred. Skyfall versus Spectre, the two most recent Daniel Craig James Bond movies. I gotta say, I'm not surprised which one won. I just thought it might be a little bit closer, because the way I look at it is this. Skyfall is definitely one of my favorite. I always like to say, I know, Brian, you always say it's your favorite, it's your top 5, top 10 favorite. Well, all right, I'll go on record here right now saying this, folks. My top 3 off the top of my head James Bond films will easily be Goldeneye, Skyfall, and Casino Royale, and not in that order. Skyfall might be one of my favorite. You know what? I'll say right now that is my favorite because I recently saw it over the weekend, and it happened to be on TV. I think it was like the Sci-Fi Channel or something. Anyway, and over my brother-in-law's watching a James Bond movie. Go figure that. Anyway, I will say Skyfall. I think I can go into a breakdown all day about this, but I will just say I loved everything about that movie. There's not one thing I would change about that. I can say the same about Casino Royale. There's really maybe I can think of one little tidbit I would change that. I'll save that for the review, but I absolutely love. When I go back and watch that in the next week for the anniversary, I can't wait to watch it because it's like watching a movie all over again, especially when I haven't watched it in a while all the way through. Goldeneye, I can watch that all the time, but I will say the top 2 tier is between Casino Royale and Skyfall. Spectre is a great James Bond movie. It absolutely is. It's just not as good. And, the comparisons with Skyfall and The Dark Knight, they're definitely out there. And a lot of people, some Bond fans just don't like Skyfall, and they especially don't like Spectre because of the story with it, or just whatever little bits and pieces you didn't like about that. But with Skyfall, they're like, oh, it was more Batman, than a James Bond movie. And I say, okay, well, I could see that, and maybe it's because I'm a Dark Knight fan, maybe it's because I'm a Batman fan. At the same time, though, I'm like, all the Bond elements are back, and it's like they almost kind of recreated them to fit, a modern age. And I really like that about it. So, Skyfall came in at 68%, Spectre came in at 32%. So, like I said, make sure that you get your vote in. I'm not going to make it any easier for you guys this week because the anniversaries for these two movies are happening. This week's versus is going to be, ready? Goldeneye versus Casino Royale. Yeah. I think I know which one's going to win. And I kind of just said who I would probably want to win in this, but you know what? I'm going to let you guys decide. Vote on Twitter. By the time you hear this, I'll try to extend it if I have to. Vote on Twitter, Batman versus Bond. Your vote counts. So that about wraps it up for this episode of the Batman versus James Bond show. Please subscribe on iTunes, rate it 5 stars, and leave a nice little review for me. The biggest thing that you guys can do to help me out with this show is share the show. There it is. When I post the show, all you have to do is just share it. Share it with one of your friends, share it with the boyfriend, share it with the girlfriend, wife, husband, family member. I don't care, but please share it out there for me. Let people know about this, because a lot of things, especially on social media, I get a lot of this saying, a Batman James Bond show. That's interesting. Why didn't, I never thought about that, about all the similarities out there. So definitely, please help me out there. Appreciate it. Follow me on all the various social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Batman vs. Bond. Find the show on the BS Podcast Network, and be sure to check out all the great programming on there, including Pure BS Podcast, Science Fiction Podcast, and Horribly Awkward Podcast. Like James Bond, I will return. Until next time, I'm Brian Thomas. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great week.